everyone, and welcome back to Katarina's Garage. My name is Katarina Lloyd, and today, we're actually going to talk about why did I do some of the mods that I did. In particular, these two things. So, the first one, which is the most polarizing thing of the car, people either love it or absolutely hate it, is the big old whale tail here. This whale tail is a knockoff of a Celine spoiler, and I like the look of it, but also it actually makes a difference in how it drives, and we're actually going to show that in this video, because I drove this thing, like when I got this car, it was bone stock. Remember that. And for some reason, I don't understand why, because that car doesn't have that issue. And I've driven other notchbacks that don't have this issue, and I've driven other hatchbacks that don't have this issue. But for some reason, this inline 6 notchback, if it doesn't have this on the highway, it actually gets quite a bit squirrely, which I'm going to show that. We're just going to drive out the Davidson, and then you'll see, how much I have to do with the steering wheel, and then you'll see when I get to Davidson Park, I'm going to take the spoiler off there, and we'll see how it goes. But also, because something that was mentioned to me is, if I took these two off, that would drastically reduce the weight. And no, it wouldn't. This is fiberglass, it weighs maybe 5 pounds. This is ABS plastic, which weighs maybe 2 pounds, if that. To be honest, I love the way that the loopers look on here. And it actually does serve a purpose. It's not just for looks, because actually, loopers were designed as a sort of window tint. It cooled off the ambient temperature inside, because you are covering up the glass slightly. That's what it was designed for, and then they just happen to look cool in the process. Now, a lot of people are going to hate the loopers. They're going to hate the whale tail. I get those comments all the time of, I should just remove these two. But I'm going to show you why, at least, this is just mostly for looks, but it does cool off the ambient temperature a little bit inside. But I'm going to show you how much of a difference the spoiler actually makes in the back. So, let's get all set up here, though. Alright, let's get to the road that I was talking about. Which is literally just over here. It's not that far at all. So that's why I picked this area. And I just needed to get it all set up and stuff. The glare might be a little bad because of the time of day. I should have done this earlier in the day, but oh well. Whatever. So yeah, so first, let's get onto the road, and then I have to drive through a little bit of residential, but then we'll get up to highway speeds, and then this is with the spoiler on. And this car is not particularly fast. Not that I'm driving it fast at all right now. I'm only doing 50 kilometers an hour. I'm in 4th gear, and it's pretty simple to drive this car. I've got a Hurst short shifter on this T5. This T5 is out of an 83, so it's the first year for the T5. I don't have the really, really nice gear ratios. If this was a world class, which is I believe 85 or 86 and up, I would have, instead of a 295 first, I'd have a 335 first, and I'd have a 0.67 overdrive rather than my 0.72. So that would be better. A lot of people with their inline 6s, they prefer the 4-cylinder transmissions, but for me, I prefer the V8 or V6 transmissions. They will hold up to more power, and also, I like the gear ratios a little nicer, because while, if I'm not mistaken, the 4-cylinder ones, they have a 0.89 or something like that overdrive, which isn't as good. If you're considering this for your inline 6 as an example, I would advise that you get, honestly, depending on if you want to actually drive it on the highway and stuff like that, and it'll also really limit on this car really well. Right now, like, and luckily, so it's not really that windy, so wind should not be much of a factor. I do have to move the steering wheel a bit because these tires make it pull a bit to the left. It's the front tires that do that. So, alright, I'm just going down the road here, right? And I'm not needing much input at all, you can see, right? Just tiny bits of input, hardly anything. Not really noteworthy, right? And we'll show like the entire run here. And, you know, I'm doing 100 kilometers an hour. And actually it's a little breezy. It's a little bit. So actually, wind with this car, like this car hates the wind. All fox bodies do though, because these things are shaped like a brick. You know, they have a 0.41 drag coefficient, which isn't terrible for the time, but considering the Pontiac Firebird in the 80s, like after 1983, had like, I think it's a 0.35 or something drag coefficient, like very, very aerodynamic, where these weren't. And even with the aero fox bodies, they really did not gain much. And ooh, yeah, it's actually quite a bit breezy out here. Earlier it wasn't, but all of a sudden the wind picked up quite a bit, so that'll be a good indication though, because you can see, you know, I am just a little bit on the wheel, you know, and I'm doing actually 110 kilometers an hour right now, which I will get to that speed as well, but like, actually I want to slow down a bit, because that wind is making this actually quite a bit sketch. And also, I gotta watch out for wildlife on this road and everything. Like, this is Highway 760, I think, or 670, I can't remember. But we call this the Bergen Road. Even though there's another Bergen Road, which I'll technically be turning onto to get to Davidson Park. And, yeah. Just give me a moment here. It takes a few minutes to get down there, so. But it gives you a good indication of, like, I don't really have to fight the wheel that much, right? You know, I'm actually keeping it mostly still at the moment. And I can actually do it with one hand for the most part. You know, so it's one of these things. But also, like, something, you're going down the road in your car, because for me, I am a bit of a racer, and I like to have that control in if it's a tire on the road. And so I actually hold my steering wheel at a closer to about a 10 and 2 or 9 and 3 position, somewhere in between those, to be honest, so that I have full control of when I turn and stuff. You'll see a lot of race drivers do this as well, and it gives you a lot more control versus, you know, doing whatever this is, to be honest. This is just sketch. And even like this is, again, I'm not really a big fan of doing this. I prefer to do this, or, you know, and then the best part is, you know, I can move my hand up here to shift, then I'll go back, right? And just some things, if you have a, you know, a manual car, or just cars in general, to be honest, especially these old cars, you want to have as much control as you can. Like, this is a car that, you know, doesn't have aerodynamics, I don't have any stability control whatsoever. It's all me, because it's a 1981. Although, sometime in the 80s, like early to mid 80s, they actually did have ABS available as a very, very rare option on Fords. Like, you can actually get them on the Fox bodies, but I've never seen one with it. I just know that it did exist, because from research I found out that, yeah, it was a very expensive option. It's much rarer of an option than what my Capri has for the rear wiper on the hatchback. And that was about a $700 option, from what I could find for that rear wiper. And so many people didn't go for it for a car that base price was, I think, $6,000 or $6,500, right? Like, that's a lot of money. So, yeah, and alright. So we're just gonna get to Davidson Park here. I'll shut it down, and then set you back up, and once I have the spoiler off, like, I'll show you guys, you know, the spoiler being off. I'm not going to film that because this video is already going to be a decent amount of length, but... And normally when I come out this way, I'm coming out here to relax, but not this time. I'm doing it just for a video. So yeah, you can see there's this little turnoff up here on the left, and this is Davidson Park, and I love it. Because hopefully there's nobody here, which looks like there's nobody here. Nice. That's the benefit of being here on a weekday. Because weekends, there's usually somebody here. I'm just going to put it in neutral. And then coast to a stop right here. There we go. Alright, now let's remove the rear spoiler. Alright, so as you can see, I got the spoiler off. You can see how long it's been on there because look at how much dirt there is underneath that. But yeah, now let's get it back on the road and I'll show you guys just how this thing drives without it. Alright. Alright. It's gonna take a minute to start this thing back up, but because this thing has an issue with heat soak with the carburetor. Actually, that wasn't so bad. Alright. Sometimes it can give me lots of troubles to try and hot start this thing, but it's all good. And, you know, but I guess it depends how hot it is outside too. Because I went to Calgary the other day and was sitting there for like 20 minutes and the car hated it. But I guess just because it was just running. There we go. Come on, car. I don't know why it's fighting me so much. There we go. Oh, and it just stalled. See, this is the problem I have with this carburetor again. Little tuning issues. Alright. So, now, let's get back to where we started this little drive. Not very far, obviously. You guys saw the drive, but and like it makes a big difference of how this thing goes down the road, to be honest. At least at highway speeds. I'm not sure if I'm around town or anything, but I don't think it makes much of a difference. But it's just because there's not as much air going against it, and it's kind of weird looking out back and not seeing that whale tail at the moment. Also, like, so that spoiler, the reason why, because not every spoiler is going to work. That one in particular does, because like it's a copy of a Celine spoiler, right? And Celine actually designed that spoiler to go racing, right? They put that on their race cars, which is really cool. And you can already see it's starting to have a little more a lot more without that spoiler out back. And I'm not sure why with this car that it does that. Because I've driven other foxbodies, they haven't had a problem with it. My other inline 6 foxbody doesn't have this problem. It's a hatchback and it's a Capri, so it's going to have slightly different aerodynamic values. I always attributed it to the front suspension design, but actually it's going to fall down to the total aerodynamics of the car. And you can see, you know, just how much I have to really fight the wheel when I am driving this car. And actually, is that an animal? No, it's not. Okay. I saw this mailbox right here, and I thought it was like a moose on the side of the road. But no, it was just a mailbox, so... Like I said, you do have to be a little careful going down the road here. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I have a whale tail. And now, the thing is, apply a downshift there. Just brain wasn't working in that instance. And just avoid the tires. There we go. But yeah, so it's just, it makes a huge difference. And because a lot of people think that, oh, spoilers are just don't do anything for your car, and that's not absolutely true. There are like cheap, you know, eBay wings that all they do is create lift rather than downforce, and actually it makes it so that your car doesn't have the traction that it should. But, you know, and a lot of those, like, they aren't, and some of them aren't even adjustable so that you can actually create downforce. And those are like your typical, you know, sort of Fast and Furious wings that you saw on like Civics and stuff like that 50 years ago. People who were racing out their cars, right? I've seen those types of spoilers on Mustangs and everything too, and I'm like, you know, some of them are great, but there's a lot of them that were not designed for it, and they're just universal spoilers, and they just don't work. Where that was specifically designed for the aerodynamics of a foxbody Mustang inline. Coincidentally, you can put that on the back of a Capri too if you wanted to. Although the Capri never came with, to my knowledge, that style ever. Yeah, I don't think so. Because the Bowback Capri, you couldn't really put a spoiler on it. There was just not enough space on it. And the earlier ones had just this tiny little thing on the back, which was more for style rather than actual functionality. It might actually make a difference to the aerodynamics of the car, I'm not too sure. But that whale tail being so far out, like it is, you know, it makes quite a difference for the aerodynamics, because usually, like, the aerodynamics of a car, it doesn't exactly follow like the back window, it usually falls off the back. But because of how far out it sticks, like, it sticks out almost as far as the rear bumper does. So with that in mind, it actually does make up a big difference for the aerodynamics. You can see, like, even as I'm starting to slow down here, I'm really having to kind of fight the wheel a bit. Like, sometimes it's okay, and other times it's really bad. I don't get why. There are bushings underneath the car that I can fix. The sway bars on this thing, like, they're fine, but I do have much better sway bars actually in a horde of parts I got, like for a GT, so those are going to be put on the car fairly soon, like as long as, because a fan reached out and they actually want to gift me a bunch of parts because they love what I do for the car community. And so I might actually be getting a full Coney suspension upgrade for this car, an MSD 6AL box, and an MSD blaster coil. So this coil and the stock box on this will go on the Capri, just to eliminate of if some of the issues that it has is from the ignition or not, or the coil, and that way it doesn't cost me anything. And then, you know, the suspension, these rear springs will actually go on the Capri because they need to be replaced. These springs have maybe 20,000 kilometers on them, if that, so they're really good too. But yeah, so, you know, that's just action. I'm speeding a little bit, slow down. It's only 50 through here. This car, the one thing is, like, it likes to do, like, depending on what gear you're in, like, I'm in 4th right now, it likes to want to do about 60 in 4th. And it's not a fast car, this thing's slow. But with some of these upgrades, like that MSD box, I'll be curious of what it does, because it's going to get more spark, at least initially. So, and the spark is going to be a little hotter because an MSD coil is slightly better than the supercell coil that I have on here. So it'll really, I'll be interested to see the difference in it. And a lot of you might think, well, why even bother with putting an MSD ignition on your inline 6? And it's just because I can. You know, I want to upgrade this car. And especially when I get it for free, it's like, it's something I've always wanted to do, but, you know, I just haven't had, you know, the money to go buy an MSD box. But anyways, that'll about wrap up this video, and like I said, sometimes cosmetic upgrades do make quite a bit of difference. And yes, I just did a slightly e-brake slide. But anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy. You know, please like, comment, subscribe. You know, you should know the spiel by now. If this is your first video, you can contact me at Katarina's Garage on Instagram or Katarina's Garage on Facebook. As well, follow me on TikTok at Katarina's Garage as well. Anyways, hope you're staying safe during COVID-19. Good luck with what we're working on, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!